Hello, welcome to another chess lesson by Coach Dat, and today I'm going to teach you about what piece values are for each of the chess pieces on the board. Some individuals have asked me, when do I trade pieces, or how do I know that this piece is worth this much and maybe there might be an even exchange on the board? Well, what I'm going to show you is just the standard values of the pieces as if it's starting in its starting position. I'm not going to go into the full nuance of when do pawns become worth more if they reach a little bit closer towards the end of the board, or which pieces are worth worth more in the middle game or even at the end game. Right now, I'm just going to show you the basic values of each of these pieces, so that way you know when and how you can trade pieces off. The first piece I'm going to show you is the pawn. The pawn here is worth 1 point. Next, we have the knight. The knight is worth 3 points. Next, we have the bishop. The bishop is worth 3 points, very similar to the knight. Next, we have the rook. The rook is worth 5 points. Next, we have the queen. The queen is worth 9 points. Of course, we cannot put a value on the king because the king is the most valuable piece on the board. Remember, if you get your king attacked and trapped and there's no way to get him out of check, it's checkmate, the game is over. So therefore, I'll say the king is worth infinite amount of points. There's no point value for the king. You generally will not be trading your king off if you want to win the game. In chess, you're going to hear two different terms, minor pieces and major pieces. The minor pieces are represented by both the bishop and the knight, the pieces that are worth only 3 points. Whereas the major pieces are represented by both the rook and the queen, respectively 5 and 9 points. I'm going to further explain why minor pieces are worth less points than the major pieces. Of course, if you are in this situation at the end of the game, it will be nearly impossible. It'll be pretty much impossible to checkmate and force this king into a corner in order to checkmate him. For example, right now, white wouldn't be able to do anything because all the black king has to do is just circle around and stay in the middle. There's no way to force this black king into a checkmating position. With this other minor piece, all black king has to do is just stay on the opposite color square of the bishop. Therefore, it will be very difficult to be checkmating in this position. Even though if white has quote unquote more points, more value points on the board, there is pretty much no opportunities for causing a checkmate with just this single piece right here. With the major pieces of the board, however, you are able to force this king on one of the ranks on the side of the board or the files and then cause a checkmate. All you need is one major piece in order to cause a checkmate. And that goes for the same as the other major piece as well, where you can checkmate this king with just one rook and one king. In this example, I'm going to show you what it's like to have an equal exchange in a game. As we can see here, both this bishop and this knight is worth 3 points, and it is black's turn to move. What black can possibly do, and this is one of the most common type of exchanges in the game, is being able to use this knight, come here and take away this one pawn. That one pawn now is taking 1 point. Now the rook takes over here, taking back 3 points in this game. And what black can also do is be able to take this rook over here for 5 points, as well as evening that exchange with white back to 6 points. So now we're giving up 6 to 6 points. Even though numerically is a very even exchange, like technically on paper is an even exchange, it just doesn't work out well, because one of the things that you have to take an account for one of the factors is the position. The position must be taken into consideration, because now in this position, white now has 4 active pieces on the board, whereas black barely has maybe just 1 active piece. So giving up 2 minor pieces for 1 major piece and a pawn can be very difficult in this position. So again, don't just trade pieces just because you can make the trade. Make sure that you take the position into consideration. Another example of how knowing the piece values can really help us in a chess game is purely for simple math. An example I could give you right here is if black made a really bad mistake of moving this rook right here to h6. White has an option to take this bishop and then trade off this bishop for this rook right here. This bishop is worth 3 points and this rook is worth 5. Should white trade off his dark squared bishop to trade off for this rook? Yes, absolutely, because this bishop is only worth 3 points, whereas this rook right here is worth 5 points. So when it comes down to the end game later on, white will have a slight advantage because it traded off its minor piece for one major piece. Here's another example of exchanging pieces on the board. In this position, white has a really good position where white can exchange their queen for black's rook on e8. However, black's rook over here on a8 can be able to exchange it back or take back. So what's going to happen is, what we can do is, if we trade off this queen right here, we also are backed up with another rook on e1. So let's see how this could play out. If white decides to take this rook, taking that rook for 5 points, this rook would then take back for 9 points. And white would then be able to come up here and take back this rook for 5 points. So a total of 10 points have been taken, exchanged for white, whereas white lost 9 points. A slight difference. You gave up 2 major pieces for 1 major piece as well. So being able to have this position in the game. However, we're talking about trading. Whenever you're trading, you're looking at this position that is really great as well, because you also have this bishop attacking over here on this diagonal. Even though if black responds with blocking this check with this knight, it doesn't even matter, because all white needs to do is be able to take that position and checkmate the king right here. As you play chess games, I don't want you to become confused by the point values. Just because you have more valuable pieces on the chessboard, it doesn't mean that your opponent is just a move or two away from checkmating you. So when you are considering trading or exchanging pieces, always consider the benefits your opponent might gain. Although the points are helpful in the simple math that you probably are making and assessing the relative strength of each piece. Always evaluate the game situation. Now that you know the value of each piece, you are better prepared at making a winning move when you are exchanging or trading pieces. Thank you very much for watching this chess lesson today. I hope that this was very helpful for you as you're learning how to trade pieces on the board and making sure that you are having a better position, but being able to do that simple math as you're playing this chess game. Again, I hope that you are improving in your chess, and if you want to continue to keep practicing all this, I'll have more videos out in the future. And for those who have been supporting me throughout all these past years, I really appreciate your support. You guys have been amazing. And if you want to know which boards I use, which equipment, which inventory I use whenever I teach chess to individuals in person, I'll put the links down below for all the equipment that I'm currently using right now. Good luck on your chess, and hope to see you on the next video.